right, in these lines, we're going to be reading Book 4 of the Aeneid and the response that Aeneas has to Dido, lines 331 through 361. Now, the word that we have here, let's all say it, please, buddy, dixerat, is telling us that obviously she had spoken from, let's say the parts, everybody, dico dicere, dixi dictus, and now it is time for that guy, meaning Aeneas, to obviously start to speak. So, that guy was holding, tenere, his, and you will find in the next line, it is the lumina. Now, the lumina, as you well know, come from, and let's do say it together, please, buddy, luminous, which is a light. But in poetry, almost always, the plural of it is going to mean your eyes. They are the lights of your soul. He was holding his lumina, his eyes, not moved. Perfect passive participle from, let's all say the principal parts, everybody. Moio movere. Mo emotus. On, or by, with, because of, from, in, on, at, the warnings. Now this verb, which of course comes from this right here, a second conjugation, everybody. Moneo. Moneare. Monui. Monitus. All we have to do is, as we've seen many times before, take that fourth principal part and substantize it into a fourth declension noun. This means to warn or to admonish, and thus it is the warnings of Jupiter. Yowis, obviously, in the genitive case. He is resolute, and that is exactly the next word that is used in the following line. You have it there. Let's all say it together, everybody. Obnixus, which of course means resolute, firm, not moving, and resolute. He was pressing, premo primary pressi pressus, his concern under his heart. He cannot give to her, Dido, one thing more than any other. And what can he not show or give to her? Hope. He cannot do it. So nevertheless, remember this is the verb from, let's all say it, please, buddy, ferro ferre, telellatus. At last he says a few things. This word is always plural. It comes from palki, palkai, palka. It's where we get the word paucity. If I say I have a paucity of candy, that means I have a smallness of it. So he goes on to say, ego. We should look for a verb that is going to require an I subject, and there it is. Negavo. We see the bow, which of course tells us that it's future from, let's all say together, buddy, bo bis bit. Bo bis bit. I nunquam, never will deny. It is all going to be broke apart and discombobulated and difficult for us to read, and when we are reading it in Latin, simply because it is a reflection of how he will be stumbling over his words. There's not much, obviously, he can say. I never will deny that you. This is your accusative subject. And your infinitive verb is going to be actually promeritam. Now this, of course, comes from, let's all say it together, buddy, mereo. Merere. It means to deserve, to merit. And all we have to do to this perfect passive participle is add essay in order to make the infinitive that we need. So I never will deny that you have deserved, you have earned the plurima, the very many things, not multa. Multa would be many, not plura. Plura would be more. That is positive, that is comparative. This is the superlative, plurimi, plurimai, plurima. That you have deserved the very many things, plurima, which, quae, you are able, you are strong, valeo valere, to count out. He says to her, yes, there's a lot of stuff, and you could list them out, you could count them out. And you could do so by speaking. Now, of course, this comes from, we've seen it many times before, let's all say it together, everybody, fari, fatasum, and again, this is then either the gerund or the gerundive. There is nothing that I see that it is modifying, and so it is going to be obviously a gerund, not a gerundive. Now, that's not even necessary in the speech when he says, I never will deny that you have earned the very many things which you are able to say or to list out by speaking. What does that mean, by speaking? How else is she going to do it? Sign language. But the point is that he adds that because when we are caught in an uncomfortable situation and we are trying to think on our feet and explain ourselves, we say extra words that are unnecessary. And so it is with him. And look at what he addresses her as. Regina, not honey, not sugar, not baby, but queen, recognizing the position of authority and the position of supremacy that she has. So I never will deny that you have earned, you have deserved the very many things which you are strong to list out by number by speaking. It's all over the place. But that's exactly what he would be. Now we have a deponent, or not deponent, an impersonal verb that is there. Let's all do say it together. Everybody gave it. And so it means to pain. And so he says it, and we always know that the subject is the impersonal it, but that is never really the subject. Instead, this subject is going to be a verb. And there we have it, one of those defective verbs that are always perfect, or pluperfect, or future perfect. The principal parts of this verb would be, everybody say it, memini, meminisse, and thus it is going to have weird forms of only the perfect, the pluperfect, the future perfect. But to have remembered means to remember it, so he says, nor will it pain me to have remembered Elissa. Now, remember that verbs of remembering and forgetting always are going to take a genitive object. And the question becomes, who is this Elissa? Well, that's another name for Dido. That is her personal Phoenician name. And the reason why he brings it up is that obviously it is showing how much concern and care and how close they have been. And he is not even saying that she's wrong. Everything that she has just listed out in her previous speech, he's like, you are right, you are right, you are right, you are right. You can count them out. You were right about this, you were right about that, you were right about that, you were right. He is not denying any of that. He says it, I never will deny it. And nor will it pain me to have remembered Elissa, to have been mindful of Elissa. Doom, while, ipse, ego, implied, while I myself, sum, am mindful. Now this is an adjective. Let's do say the nominative. All three will be the same form, like sagax, 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 or felix, felix, felix. Everybody, memor, memor, memor.
Memor, memor, memor.
Be alive, say these things, and of course the genitive of which would be, let's all say it together, everybody, memoris.
Memoris.
And it means mindful. But just like an adjective, or I should say a verb requires a genitive object, it will have a genitive as well. While I am myself mindful of myself. Now, what is the only condition which you can obviously be self-aware? If you are what? Alive. Conscious and alive. So he says, as long as I live. But he doesn't say it that way. And why does he say it in this odd way? While I myself am mindful of myself. He's all nervous. He doesn't have his thoughts together. And while my spirit, my soul, my breath rules these limbs. Artus, artus, his limbs, and of course that is from the verb. Let's all say it together, everybody. Rego. Regere. Now, he then goes on to say, pro re pauca loquar. On behalf of the situation, on behalf of this thing, I will say. Now, the reason why I can translate this as I will say, this is, of course, a third conjugation. It is from the verb loquar, that is, from here. Let's all say the principal parts. Everybody, loquor.
Loquor.
Loqui.
Loqui.
Locutus sum.
Locutus sum.
To speak. Now, as you know, a short ERE in a normal verb would be, of course, a third conjugation. Short EREs into the passive turn into a long I. That tells me that A is not really a long A, or not really an A at all. Remember the equation, long E plus R equals AR, just like long E plus M equals AM, exactly right. And so it was going to be translated, possibly, I will say, pauca, same thing, a few things on behalf of the situation. Let me explain myself, essentially. But you can also understand this, however, as a present subjunctive. Remember, if it's a third conjugation, we fear a giant liar. And so it's to be translated, if it were a present subjunctive, let the subject verb, the subject is I, let me say a few things on behalf of the situation. The Romans would have not understood any difference between the two of them. They would have just understood it as what it is intended. But we can think about it in two different ways. Either I will say a few things, or let me say a few things. Well, the problem is he's already said a few things. And so why is he rambling on? Because he cannot explain it away. He cannot justify it. All that he can do is to take it. But we make it worse when we try to explain, when we try to justify, when we say the stupid, stupid, stupid phrase. What had happened was. That is exactly what he is doing. He's saying what had happened was. Why should you never say what had happened was?
Because it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. You cannot explain it away. And so he then goes on to say, ego, again, I need to find my verb for which it is the subject in here. I find it with that word there. Let's all say the principal parts. Everybody, sparrow.
Sparrow.
Sperari.
Sperari.
So not sperari, sperare. Everybody, sperawi.
Sperari.
Be alive, people. Say these things. I did not hope. Did because it's perfect. I did not hope to abscondere. Now, does anybody know what it means to abscond? Okay. Life would be easier if you could speak English, but it means to hide, to conceal, to deceive. I did not hope to hide hanc fuga, this flight, in secret, furto, something that is furtive.
What is abscondere?
Abscondere is an infinitive that means to hide, to conceal. We get the English word abscond. Okay? Then he goes on to say as a command. Now we all know that Virgil and all poetry breaks the rules. The rules of a negative imperative should be noli plus an infinitive. I think I went around you and you were in Latin 1 and I made every single one of you. What form of the verb goes with noli and nolite?
The infinitive.
What form of the verbs goes with noli and nolite?
The infinitive.
This should actually be, as a commander, noli fingere. But instead, what you could do when you're writing poetry is you could break those rules and you could just make a ne and then put it with the imperative. Now, the word here, let's all say it, everybody, fingo,
Fingo.
fingere,
Fingere.
fixi,
Fixi.
fictus.
Fictus.
And what do you think we get from fingo, fingere, fixi, fictus?
Fiction.
Fiction is exactly right. To make something up, and he commands her, don't make that up. And so he goes a bit on the offensive here, in which previously he says, I did not hope, I did not plan to hide this flight in secret. Don't you make that up. I wasn't going to leave in the middle of the night. I wasn't going to let you know that I was leaving you by text. I was going to tell you myself. Don't even try to make that up. And is this true? Is this true? Was he trying to hide his leaving?
Yes.
No. He was just getting ready to go. Was he going to address the queen and tell the queen face to face that he had to leave?
Yes.
Yes. And he's telling her, don't play that card. But this is where it goes off the rails. This is where he has to play emotional hardball with her, in which he continues and says, nec umquam, and not ever. Numquam is never, umquam is ever, and not ever, praetendi. Now we all know this comes from everybody, tendo tendere.
Tendo tendere.
It's like your tendons stretch. And not ever have I stretched forward the taidos. These are marriage torches. The offering and the ceremony of marriage, of the torch of marriage that binds you both. And he says, not ever have I extended, have I stretched the marriage torches of a spouse, of a husband, or not ever have I come into these contracts, into these relationships, into these agreements. The word foidera comes from, let's say it together, please, buddy, foidus.
Foidus.
Oh, come on, people, be alive. Foideris.
Foideris.
And it is a contract. Do not confuse that word with the word, one of them, for ugly. There is also the word that is a first and second declension adjective. Foidus, foida, foidum. But here it is foidera. That means a contract. He basically tells her what in these two lines?
We're not married.
Nor have we ever been.
Exactly.
But look at the terminology he uses. Right there, let's all say it together, everybody. Taidos.
Taidos.
Taidos. That is that's like the marriage certificate. Because boys and girls, you could have two people that live together, they could be married, and they could obviously act as though they're married, have an agreement between themselves that they are married, and they are just as married outside of the law as I and my wife are. But what do I have in my house to prove that my wife and I are married?
That's certificate.
A legal document. Does anybody know what that is called when you are...
Marriage license?
No. When you don't have the official legal document from the government. No, it's called common law. It's called a common law marriage. And the common law marriage means that you might not have the governmental approval, but you live as though you are. That is not common law. And then again, this is the term used for like a legal contract, and I've said this before. If I want to divorce my wife, if I want to end my marriage, what do I have to get a hold of?
A divorce certificate.
A lawyer. I can't just say, baby, it's over, and that's all. I've got to go get somebody to untangle all of the various legal issues that are there. The custody of children, the allocation of assets and money. All kinds of things have to be considered. The only time my wife has ever served on a jury, it was in a marriage dispute, settling a divorce, as it were. She said it was the boringest thing in the world because it was just going through all the various different assets and money that needed to be split up and how it was going to be split up. And oh, it was just miserable. Miserable, I tell you. And so that's what he's saying. He's like, look, I've never signed any papers. But what's the problem with his argument when he says, I never signed the papers?
You acted.
That is what matters. It was the actions. But is he right?
Yes.
Yes. But he's only right in what way? Technically. Boys and girls, if you are technically right about something, you are possibly wrong. Not always. But boys and girls, if you want to be right, you need to be right. Not by the letter of the law, but by the what? Nobody knows the term? You got two aspects of the law. You got the letter, and boys and girls, what is the letter of the law? Yeah, what it says. But what else comes along with the law? The spirit of the law. What the law intends. You got the letter, and you got the spirit. You follow the letter, you're always good. You follow the spirit, you're almost always as good as well. The spirit of the law is what matters, the intention of the law. He continues and says, if the fata, if the fates, paterento. Now, this is from the verb, and it's one of my favorites. Let's all say it together, everybody. Patior.
Patior.
Pati.
Pati.
Possessum.
Possessum.
Which means to suffer, endure, or allow. So he says, and it's an imperfect subjunctive, present infinitive, plus an ending, if the fates were allowing me to ducere, to lead my vita, your vital signs or your life signs, and so therefore your life, if the fates were allowing me to lead my life, meis auspiciis, by my own auspices. I'm assuming you do not know what the English word auspices means.
Desire.
Accord.
Yeah, accord, desires, my own omens, my own control. And if the fates were allowing me, to componere from, let's say the principal arts, everybody, pono,
Promenade.
ponere,
Promenade.
posui,
Proceed.
positus,
Proceed.
to compose my life, or my cares, kuras, spontaneia, and this is where we get the word spontaneous from. It's from the nominative, let's say it, and the genitive, everybody, spontus,
Spontus.
by my own will, by my own spontaneity. If that were the case, if the fates let me have the decision, and this is the hammer home part, then I would be cherishing, I would be cultivating. From the verb, say the principal part so that it gets maybe stuck in your mind, everybody. Colo,
Colo.
colere,
Colere.
colui,
Colui.
cultus.
Cultus.
I would be cultivating the Trojan city first. And I would be cultivating the sweet remainders, the sweet relics of my peoples. In other words, if I were in control of my own life, I what?
Wouldn't even be here.
Correct, or ever have come here. I am only here because of how life has dumped on me. My people are gone. My people have experienced a Holocaust, a genocide. And so, don't give me about this business about what I want to do. It's not about whether I want to stay. It's not about whether I want to leave. It's about what life is forcing me to do, and that's what he tells to her. So again, if the fates were allowing me to lead my life by my own auspices, and to compose my concerns by my own will, then I would be cherishing, first of all, the city Troy, the Trojan city, and the sweet remnants of my peoples, the tecta alta, the high houses. Remember, this is a substantized fourth principal part. From, let's say, the principal parts of the verb, please, everybody, tego, tegere,
Tego, tegere.
texi, tectus,
Texi, tectus.
the high houses of Priam would subjunctively be remaining, and I would have, because now we have a pluperfect subjunctive, which is a perfect infinitive with an ending, I would have placed Troy recidiva. Now, I'm assuming y'all have no idea what the English word recidivism is.
Nope.
Oh, my life would be easier if people spoke English. You'd have no idea what recidivists are. All right, recidivism is the process by which somebody gets out of prison, and then what happens to them?
They go back.
That's it. You're a recidivist when you go back and back. So it means recovered, reborn. I would have placed Troy, which is known as Pergamum, with my hand, recovered, reborn, back again, like back in prison again, from the ones having been conquered. Basically what he tells her in these lines is that it is not up to whom?
Me.
Yes, it's not up to me.
Exactly.
It is not my choice. I've had all of this stuff happen to me. Do you think I wanted to lose my first wife in Troy?
No.
Do you think I wanted to lose my city, the only one that I have ever known?
No.
Do you think I wanted to see my entire city's population, whom I've loved, defended, fought for, wiped out in a singular night?
No.
And I don't really want to leave now. But,
Dido isn't understanding.
gotta go. I gotta go.
Gosh.
So, goes on to say, sed nunc. But now, let me move that a little bit more. He's like, look, if I had my choices, Troy'd still be standing. If I had my choices, even if Troy had fallen, I'd be back there building the city up again.
He honestly just called her his third option.
Yes, that is true. But he's enjoyed that third option at the time, but that is option number 3.
It's like, I want to
Sed nunc, but now. Grainean Apollo, that is our subject. He has what? Well, not just he. The Lycian sortes, the Lycian oracles. So it's not just the singular source Apollo. You've got multiple divine elements telling you to do something. But now, Grainean Apollo and the Lycian oracles, they have ordered from our verb, let's say the principal parts, be alive, people, eubeo,
Eubeo.
eubere,
Eubere.
eusi,
Eusi.
perfect stem with alternative perfect ending. They have ordered, they did order. Me implied to capacity, to go after, to obtain, to get. Italy, great Italy. And if that didn't hammer home the point, he says it again. Italy. Let me spell it out for you, honey. I-T-A-L-I-A-M. Not what?
Not me.
Not Carthage. Not Carthage. Italy. He repeats it. But now, the Lycian sortes, the Lycian oracles, and Grainean Apollo, they have ordered me to accomplish, grab hold of, obtain great Italy. Italy. Hic amor. This is my love. The implication being not what?
You.
No.
Not you and not Carthage. Haec est patria. This is my what? My fatherland. This is my country. Now, boys and girls, is he being pretty brutal?
Yes.
Oh, devastatingly so. But what has he said that cannot be factually agreed with?
We aren't married.
None of it can be factually disagreed with. However, what's the problem from Dido's point of view?
You ignored all that before?
Dido wouldn't care anything and won't want to hear facts. Does Dido want to hear facts right now? Is Dido in a position where, I think you've got a point. I've analyzed your argument, and I really cannot pick apart any. You know, I didn't think of it that way. No! Instead, boys and girls, Dido is thinking with one thing and one element alone, and what is Dido thinking with? That is it. And that matters, boys and girls. It matters. When someone is upset, like your best friend grandfather dies at 95 years old, you don't go and say, look, you got to go sometime. I mean, had a good run. That's true. Is it not true? Like if you hit 95, that's a good run. Should you bring up to your friend to make him feel better? Like, hey, had a good run. You got to go sometime. So you want to go play ball? No, that is not what you do.
But you're that dude.
No, I am not. You might think it, you don't say it. So why isn't he saying it?
Because he has
No,
to.
don't give her hope.
Yeah, you gotta have it. I mean, he lays it out. But again, does it in any way, what he is saying so far, does it make us feel better about him?
No.
What do girls usually say?
No.
No. He can list out every fact that he wants to. He was wearing my clothing, he was sleeping in my bed, and he was eating my food. He was acting like what? That is it. Don't tell me about like, show me the signature, baby. I don't see it. Pull out the marriage contract. You don't have any of that. Like, you know, there's none of this like, show me the prenup. No.
She was a summer vacation.
No. 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 It'd be different, but she gives up what for him?
Everything.
Yeah. So he goes on. This is my love. This is my country, not Carthage, and not you. See, if the arcades, if the citadels of Carthage, where, and the site, again, it's just the principal part, the fourth one made into a fourth declension noun, aspicio, aspicate, aspexi, aspectus, to see. But if the citadels of Carthage and the site of the Libyan city hold back, detain you, a what kind of person?
A Phoenician.
A Phoenician. He knows that, and the students often bring up what one question that they think solves the issue.
Why doesn't he stay?
Brings Dido.
There it is. You're telling this girl that you've been with for so long, I've got to move to California for a new job. Bye. What is the girl's question might be? Why can't I come too? Why can Dido not come?
She has responsibilities as the leader.
That is it. And he says, if the citadels of Carthage and the site of the Libyan city hold back you, a what kind of person? I understand who you are. You've got to be here. At last, quae invidia est. Now this word here, let's do say the nominative and the genitive, everybody. Invidia. Invidiae. The word invidia, invidere can mean two things. One, it can mean to hate, and the other, it can mean to envy or to be jealous. But do we not use the word hate in that way simultaneous?
Yes.
Both into hate, literally as hate, but when you say haters are going to hate, haters are drinking haterade, what is the hate that they have?
Jealousy.
Indeed. And so, what begrudgment, what hatred, what jealousy is there that the Teucrians settle down in the Ausonian land? He basically says to her, all I want to do is what you have done here. You have settled here as a Phoenician. You love the citadels of Carthage. That's what keeps you here. Why are you hating that the Teucrians and my people settle where we're supposed to, the Ausonian land, which is Italy? Et fas. Whenever you see that fas, imply an est with it. And it is divinely right that we, nos, say the principal parts, everybody, quaero, that we seek external kingdoms. Obviously, all we're doing is that we need to go where we are going. And so I think in many ways, this is one of the most durable arguments that he's making. And why is this one of the most durable arguments that might resonate with her, unlike this other business that she ain't having?
She can't argue.
She can relate to it.
Yes. And how can she relate to this idea?
She did it.
Yeah, the responsibility that she has to whom first and foremost?
Her
people.
The people. It's like Elizabeth I. Elizabeth I, known as the Virgin Queen. And so what did they name after her?
The Virgin Islands.
And?
Virginia.
Yep. Because she's the Virgin Queen. Now, boys and girls, was she a virgin in the technical sense?
No.
No, she had many lovers. But why was she known as the Virgin Queen?
Good person.
She never married.
Right. And why did she never marry Elizabeth I?
She knew that she would be reduced to nothing.
Well, she wouldn't be reduced to anything, but she would be reduced to the secondary person in the marriage. If she marries the King of Spain, she becomes the Queen of Spain. And he becomes the what?
King of England.
King of
It's
England.
like in that show Rain.
Say it again.
Remember my show Rain that I was telling you?
Yes?
Yeah, it's like
Mary
that.
Queen.
Yes, you're exactly right.
Like she was the Queen of Scotland.
There it is. And you can't get married.
Elizabeth.
Because all you're doing when you get married is you're inviting into Scotland a king.
Yep.
So, whom was Elizabeth married to?
Her country.
England. Who is Dido married to?
Her country.
But she broke that marriage and instead married someone else, at least in her mind.
She cheated.
So, it goes on to say, nominative subject. So starting here, let's all say it please, buddy, imago.
Imago.
Imaginus.
Imaginus.
An imago is an image. And this is the term for the wax death masks that would be made of your dead ancestors that you would keep in your house in the shrine to your ancestors.
Who's to this?
Kind of like in the movie Mulan. At the very beginning, is there not a shrine to all the ancestors?
Yes.
Same exact idea in ancient Rome. So let's all say it again, nominative. It is going to be not an ablative or a dative. Do not think that's a long O ending. Everybody, imago, imaginus. The image. And the image of my dad Anchises. That image does two things. The image admonets, and we've already seen that word before. Let's all say it again, please, everyone. Moneo. Monere. Monui. To admonish, to warn. And also that image terrets, terrifies me. So the image of my father Anchises, who remember is dead, it admonishes me in my sleeps. And it terrifies me in my sleeps. And it's the turbid image. I'm assuming you don't know what the word turbid means, do you?
Constant.
Okay, no. What give me an English word we might get from this?
Turbulent.
Turbulent, yes. Turbid means disheveled. And why is an image of your dead father going to be disheveled?
You can't remember.
Yeah, because you're dead. It's of old age. It's kind of like, have you ever seen A Christmas Story when Marlowe shows up? Y'all even know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And he's got all, like, you know, the stuff on him that when he had died. And so when anybody ever seen the movie Beetlejuice?
Yeah.
When they encounter, like, the football players that died in the car wreck and they're all mangled and whatnot.
It's like when Hector shows up.
Oh, you were exactly right. When Hector shows up. That's an even better example from the Aeneid itself. Look. My turbid image of my dad Anchises admonishes me in my sleeps and terrorizes me in my sleeps. Now, how often? You have it in the answer. The word is, let's all say it please, buddy, quotianes.
Quotianes.
Now, quotianes, quote means how many. Quotianes then is going to be however often. However often. But when you see another quotianes, remember they can use themselves correlatively. As often as. So as often as the night covers the lands, nox operit from the verb, let's all say please buddy, operio.
Operio.
Operire, to cover over. So as often as the night covers the lands with shadows dripping. Put the word H on the front of it, or the letter H, and you get humid, humentibus. So how often does the image of his father come to him?
Every night.
Every night, in his dreams, in his sleeps. And as often as the fiery stars, astra, rise. And what do you think the father is telling him?
You got it found.
Yeah, what are you doing? You're hanging around in the wrong place. The puer ascanius. the boy Ascanius went, and the injury in Uriah of his dear head. Remember when they were leaving from Troy, that Anchises, the father, was not going to go. But there was an omen as given to them by the gods to let them know it's time to go. Does anybody remember what that omen was?
His hair caught on fire.
Indeed. So the boy Ascanius and the injury of his dear head, those two things admonishes and terrorizes me every single night. He brings up family, because this is again something that she can, of course, relate to. The boy Ascanius, whom I fraudo. Whom I do what? What do you think the word means? Okay, take off the O. Whom I fraud. I defraud from the kingdom of Hesperia and from the fatal fields. Remember the word is, let's all say it please everybody, R-Y. That's actually wrong. That would be the plural. It is our womb, our we. Our wa is the neuter plural. It's a neuter second declension word. But basically saying, look, if I stay here with you, then obviously I am doing wrong my own family. I would like to, but I can't. And then he ends it with the following. Nunc etiam. Now even, and what English word do you think we get from interpres? Interpreter. It's a messenger. And now a messenger. A messenger, perfect passive participle from the verb. I know we said it 1,000 times, do it 1,001. Mito mitere. Misi misus. Having been sent by Jupiter himself. And it's a messenger of the gods. This really should be deorum, but how many times have we seen the word man with the O-R dropped out of virorum? How many times have we seen the word deum instead of deorum, or divum instead of devorum? Now even a messenger of the gods, having been sent by Jupiter himself, and he goes on to say testor, a verb that of course means to swear. Say the principal parts of this deponent verb, everybody. Testor,
Testor.
testi,
Testi.
and what do you think we get from testor? That means to swear.
Test.
Testify.
Testify. To testimony. I swear, and then you swear on an accusative thing, on each head. Now what does that mean? I swear on the head. What would it mean if I were to swear on the heads of my children?
On their life.
On their life. So she's saying, I swear on my head and yours, each of our heads, I swear. Because this could be interpreted by Dido as being what?
Convenient.
Yeah. So you're telling me God came down and told you to leave me? Swear, honey. I'm telling you. Jesus himself visited me last night, sat me down and said, you got to dump that girl. Now, are you believing this sort of nonsense? If somebody, boys and girls, if somebody comes to you and tells you that they are doing something that you don't like and God told them to do it, you think that you might be a tad bit skeptical.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I will. Like, I got to dump you. God told me last night in a dream that that was it. The relationship was over. What? And so, that's the problem too. You can't ever argue with someone who tells you that God told me to do it. There's no reasoning with that.
Argue with God?
Look, I need to go with what God has told me to do. I can go with what you're telling me to do. What choice do you think I'm making, honey? So he goes and says, I swear on each head, a messenger of the gods, having been sent by Jupiter himself, that messenger has brought down, say the principal words, everybody, Pharaoh Pharaoh, Tulilatus, has brought down the commands, the mandates through the swift breezes. He himself, no, not he. I went and I saw my verb. You see how it's weedy and not weed it? I myself saw that God manifesto in lumine. In what?
In light.
Yes, what kind of light?
In-
Manifest. We would say what?
in
What's
God-
the idiomatic phrase? If you see something as clear as day.
Crystal clear.
No, that uses the word light.
Where daylight?
We wouldn't say clear, you say broad daylight. You ever heard of something happening in broad daylight?
Yes.
Okay, he murdered a man. He didn't do it at night in an alleyway. He murdered a man how?
In broad daylight.
That's what he's saying. Look, it's not like I thought I saw a shadow in my room over in the corner. Like in, what's the stupid movie my children were watching yesterday? The one you gotta like scare the kids and it makes the power. Yeah, you know how like they're all like a shadow in the corner and then they bust out the shadow? That is not what he's talking about here. He's not saying, I think it was Mercury. It was a haze in front of me, and I kind of made it, no, like broad daylight. I myself saw the god in broad daylight, the god entrant him, entering the walls, and I drank in. This is our verb that, of course, what Titus does a whole bunch in those chapters. Everybody, haurio.
Haurio.
Be alive, people. Haurire.
Haurire.
Hausi.
Hausi.
Haustus.
Haustus.
It means to drain. Oh, that should be haustus. Or to drink in. And so I drained in, I drank in his voice. His auribus. You could see him probably tugging on them with these ears. So it's not like I had a dream. No. Dude came down, stood in front of me, said, "You got to go." And then he ends with the speech. Decine. From the verb, let's all say the principal marks, everybody. Decino.
Decino.
Decinere.
Decinere.
It means desist, stop. And it will take with it always an infinitive. Stop from doing something. Literally stop to do it, but the sense is stop from doing it. Stop from inflaming, make way, take way. When he tells it to stop inflaming, he's not saying stop getting yourself riled up. He's saying stop getting whom riled up?
Me.
Me and you. Both me and you. He is telling her what in this statement? That he is upset. He is emotionally distraught. He is not enjoying this whatsoever. We talked about this the other day. In some ways, it is just as bad, the person who is ending it, as the person who is on the receiving end of the ending. And then you have here the word querilis, which should, I think, be a long I-S, but nevertheless. You have it there, everybody. Say, please, querula.
Querula.
Queruli. And it's where we get the English word querulous, which I'm assuming you do not know, even though I told you within the last 2 months. If something is querulous, it means that it is filled with complaints. It is from the verb queror, query, questus sum. This is the verb to complain. This is the noun, a complaint. Stop from inflaming both me and you with your